Everybody, so let us start our class in this morning. So as usual, let us see our beautiful schedule today. So according to our schedule, you have your test 2. On next Friday, this time, it will start exactly same time, okay? 9:05. Or at least I may wait 5 minutes, 9 or 10. Okay, at 9:10. So then if you are late, then you will be late. I will not be able to give you extra time. But if you are entitled to have extra time during your test for your personal need, then send me an email ahead, please. Okay, so next Friday, that will be right. Test 2, and test 2 we will cover from the beginning up to module 5. Okay. And so in our last 2 lectures, you know what I discussed. Actually, I did not really start with official slides. What I did my own way. I described the foundation about basics of function and function call, function definition with live program. So if you are in my last 2 lectures, I think you should now, so far you should know that how do we declare a method and how do we, method I mean function, how do we declare a function, and how do we pass parameters, how do we call a function. Let me recap some quick function Java. So I discussed function, how to define a function and how to call a function using the program is here. And I also discussed with C++. I also discussed with C#, and maybe I also discussed with Python. So most of the main languages I covered. Anyone has any questions so far? And another thing that I discussed, how to use Eclipse, okay, in order to create our in order to refactor our code. Function includes some selected code. Another program that I want to emphasize here, maybe I want to again emphasize here for the test, for your test. Sometimes we need to enter a value using keyboard. Okay. Okay. For instance, we want to have name. We want to enter name. Name is a string. Age is an integer type, and maybe float type weight. Okay, so how do we enter that? We need the scanner method in Java. Okay, the method we create a scanner object. Okay, and we pass this object, for instance here, is with a method. For instance, for name equal to whatever my name, we put this name equal to is dot next. You see, when I have my S is my scanner object. As soon as I type in S and then press a bit slow, press dot, it will show me a bunch of methods. For the next line method is used to take a line from keyboard until you press keyboard. Okay, next int is used to take an integer number. Next float is used to take a float number. For instance, you see that when I press it S, see that it is showing me a bunch of methods that started with next. Next string takes only one. It does not take a blank space. So we should use next line. Next line takes a line until you press enter. It takes space, blank space as well as. So for the name, we should use next line. Okay. And for the age, since this is an integer number, we will put next int. And for equal to age dot next, you see next float should use. So there are similar methods in C#, and in C++, all we use cin method. Python we use input method, but in Python, in order to in the input method take an integer as a take an input as a string, so we convert it into int method. No one is there that taking Python lab, right? Is anyone here taking Python lab? Okay, then I don't need to focus more on Python. Yeah, please make some practice, do some practice about using scanner. Take keyboard input, okay? You may get another question from like this, your test one. Yeah, this is in Java, but only same in your language, C#, C++, other languages. Okay, so let us start with our slides. Okay, so method. So we know that a method is a logical combination of a group of statements. Logical means statements should be logical in order, and it should not be something irrelevant that makes an error. Okay. The main purpose, what is the main purpose? The main purpose of writing a method is to reuse our code. We have shown that once we define a method, then we can reuse that method code again and again just by calling our method, right? Okay. These are the benefits: reusability, easy to work with, high level abstraction. What is meant by abstraction? High level instruction. For instance, we have a method defined. We will be just using this method. It is our least headache to recall how and where this method is defined. Okay, even just we need to know how the method needs to be called. For instance, just we need to, for instance, if we know the signature of this method, for instance, this method, that how this method is declared. Signature means how this method is declared. So by this is the signature line of this method. By looking the signature method, we know that this method returns an integer value, and its name is sum, and it takes two integer type arguments. Signature. Once we know the signature, so then while calling this method, we will remember the signature. We will follow the signature, because since this method returns a value, so then we will be able to use it as a function, as a variable, and since it has two argument type variable as a parameter, so we will pass two argument integer type variable as a part. Okay. So once we know the signature, okay, then we will be able to use it. For in Java, for instance here, what is my recent file scanner? Okay, method call. Okay, function. Okay, this is the method we discussed. This is the function we discussed. So that for instance, if even anywhere we see this function, if we control and then bring our mouse pointer in most IDE, then if we click on open implementation, then it will take me to the implementation wherever it is, no problem. And you will see the signature, method signature on this header line. Okay. And then it reduces program's complexity and it reduces size of program size. That's it. That's the benefit. Okay, so as we know that function can be called several things depending upon the book. In some books it says procedures, some book it will say, in some place it will say it will be called module, somewhere in some place it will be called methods, especially in object oriented programming concept function is called method, same name. Okay, behavior, somewhere it is called behavior. That a function behaves something, a function does something. This is quite somewhere in object-oriented programming concept. It may be, you may see the word behavior function. Okay, and somewhere you may see method function. So after our test, maybe we will discuss about object programming. Nice concept. You will feel more enjoyment while we discuss object-oriented programming. Okay, so this is a pseudocode. This is a simple pseudocode of a function. So at this point, I like everybody to start writing program. As I told you earlier, that a pseudocode is a thing that how do and why do we use pseudocode and how long we should use pseudocode. For instance, a pseudocode like is a GPS. We use GPS. We use a GPS if we do not know a destination around, right? If we are not familiar with our destination, then we use GPS. But as soon as we become familiar with our destination, we no longer use GPS. Agree? If we know our destination, if we are familiar with our route, so then we no longer use GPS. Use pseudo with that goal in mind. If you do not, you understand clearly, then write your pseudocode, write a draft. Okay? And then once you understand your process, then you should start writing a program code. For instance, if you are asked to add two numbers, okay, then if you started with, we could start with pseudocode with a little baby, if or he or she does not understand anything. But at this point, you know how to add two numbers. So you should not spend time unless you are asked explicitly to write a pseudocode. You should write program. Because in pseudocode, you see that there are something vague, incomplete, that it does not say that is this number one and number two. What are data type of this number one and number two? Integer or float or double? It does not say. And sometimes it is telling you read. So if you are used to just writing pseudocode, you will not be familiar with how to scan a number using how to read a number actually using keyboard. This is why at this point we are at the second half of we are almost at the middle of our course. So I encourage you everybody to write code. Okay, and say that this method, even it does not return a value. So the same code, just block. This is the block, main block. So enter two numbers. It will, so the read method is together one after another. That means it will read two numbers, and then it will find an average just by adding, summing up two numbers and by dividing them. And if we want to reuse this code again and again without a method, then we have to call this method again, this block of statement again and then again. But we know that instead of writing a block of code again and again, we declared a function. Okay, same thing that we discussed in our lecture. So if we declare this code as a my function, name as my function, then as many times we call this my function, we know that these, all of this statement will be executed again and again. Whatever call this method, it will be executed. So if we call 3 times, you see that our program is concise, it's very small. Instead of writing a bunch of codes like this, we can write only 3 lines. Same thing. So in another word, a function, we use a function in order to modularize our code. It is called in other way, in other term, we say modularized function, that we segment our code. So a function, what is a function? A function again is a black box. Is a black box. We may say a black box. Is a block of statement. For instance, the function, it has two things: method for function header and function body. Okay. So this body is called sometimes black box. It's a black box. Sometimes it takes some input and it gives some output. The output may be sometimes completely different than its input. So unless we know the actual how a method works, by analyzing or knowing the method body, sometimes we may be unfamiliar with functions. So sometimes for most common methods, we should know what are the signature or what are the ways to call a method. For instance, we frequently use println method, right? So if we search, if we click on, press on control button and click on, just take our mouse over here on the println method, then if we go open implementation, let's see if I have got. Then my IDE should take me to the place where this println method is declared, is defined. So let me see if it takes me over there. It's slow. I will come back later if it goes there. The header line is the top line and body is the rest of the statements are body. This is the header line and this is the body. So even if the body is one line, single line, that needs to be enclosed within break, opening and closing break. But in some languages like Python does not use breaks, but instead it uses station. When it is one line, still we need to use curly brace in order to enclose function body. Okay. So method signature, the word method signature. Method signature is the combination of the method name and the parameter list. It is a part of the top line of the method. Okay. For example, this is the method signature. We will call this as a method signature. Signature means that how this method is defined. By looking at least one line, we can gauge that what is this function, what is its type, what is return type, okay, and what are the arguments. That's it. Even we do not see the body, we can guess. So that by looking this, we can know how to call this method. We We know that when I call this method, we need to provide two values, one for num1 and one for num2, integer values, right? And another thing is the most important thing, function return type and return statement. Okay, so this is the return type and this is the return statement. If a function does not have any return type, then it is void. A function with void type cannot have any return statement. Return statement should be the last statement. Okay, after return statement, you cannot have any logical statement. Okay, and with condition, you may have multiple returns, but only one of the return statements will be executed. And this return is, if returns means just terminate the execution of this method. Okay, and then if return statement has some value, this value must be consistent with this return type. Okay, for Java and C Sharp, okay, return type and the type is declared and the method header, and must void, use void if no data will be returned, and must use a return statement if the return type is not void. That is the thing. Okay. Let us figure out some return type. First guess what should be the return type for this one. For instance, if we want to return average of some numbers, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers, what should be our return type? Average. What should be our return type? At least integer, right? But it may not be integer always, right? If we add 3, 2 and 3 and make an average, then it will make me 2.5, right? Average 2 plus 3, 5 divided by 2 equal to 2.5. So you should make it fluid. When you make an average, return an average, then you should make it fluid type. So when you return get letter grade, for instance, A plus, A minus, B plus, B, C, D, like something, then should be string, right? Okay. But if we something, for instance, want to return gender in one character, M for male and F for female, then character, right? Okay, but if you want to return your gender whole as a whole, full number, male or female, then that must be string. Okay, remember that. Okay, so are you asleep? Boolean. Okay, that's good. So get GPA. Wait. Okay, print menu. Get student name string, right? Okay, and calculate average. Fluid. Okay, average and calculate average same thing. Okay, and for instance, sum. If we want to return just sum, what should be? Okay, sum should be integer, but if we provide float number, then still we should use like float, right? We can use float. And when do we need to use double? If our number is very large or very small. Okay, very large, like for instance, the weight of a planet. Or very small, like the weight of an atom. Very small number, right? Or how far light goes in 10 light years. Very far. Then we should use long time, very long distance. Okay, we got this. Okay, Another thing that please don't be confused that a method does with the return type. Okay, that okay. Sometimes we use void. So what is this one? This mean void means what? It does not return any value. It does not return. It does many things. Void means it does many things, but it does not return any value. Okay, and some method they can return string. Know that, right? Okay, and okay, these are the things we just discussed. Okay, so method name. Method name is just a variable or an identifier name. Okay, we can give any name of our method that should be consistent to our. Okay, so we do not have any source code for the print method over here, so it did not come through. So method name, okay, it is an identifier. Okay, you can any name, but not any what is that called? Keyword name. Name should not be any keyword like void. You cannot give name void. Void is a keyword, right? It is permissible that if all keywords are written in uppercase, start with written in letter, but it's okay that if you start with void, void in uppercase, but you should not do it. Give a name. There are a lot of names you can give. So some should be fine. And this is some that we discussed. This is very methods name, function name sum, and it has already another variable name sum. It may be misleading or confused, but you said method. How do we know that this is a function or method? It has a parenthesis. That's it. But it is a variable, but it does not have any parenthesis. This is a variable but without any parenthesis. This is a function with a parenthesis. This is a function and this is a method. We can have this way, but we should not have this way. As I told you that you may have a baby named Tom, and then if you have a baby named Tom, you should not have any pet or cat or dog same name Tom. That will be confusing, right? If you call Tom, who will come in? Your dog. That will be confusing. So this is why we should give. Okay, in some programming languages like in interpreter side, we do right over here, or you see that refactor over here. So if we select refactor and you see somewhere it is okay, refactor, click on the refactor. And somewhere there is a rename option. If you select this rename, you see that these are the places selected where this name, this some variable is used. Just what I need to do, I need to give a different name, and if I give a different name, just press enter. It says that press enter to refactor. You see that small letter? If I press enter, then all places where it was previously variable name Sam, it was replaced by result. So using this step and ID is beneficial. That for instance, even if we want to refactor rename my sum. Okay, so then what we should do right click, then refactor, select refactor, rename, and then let us, you see that these are the places selected as sum because some were called in these places or used this all of these places. So this we can get sum. Okay, once we press enter, you see that everywhere it will be changed. This is an effective way we should refactor without manually changing it. Okay, if you want to change it manually, you may forget that some places has this old name. Okay, a method, these are the naming convention. A method cannot use any keyword, reserved word, cannot begin with a number, and cannot contain a strange number except, okay, strange symbol except dollar sign or some languages allow to use this. Okay. In most, the standard convention is that in Java, most methods start with a lowercase letter, but in start with an uppercase letter. Okay, for instance, this is well known. This is called camel case. Camel case. Okay, the camel has his body and then head down and up. So this is why. How do we see that? It's single one letter, but it has multiple letter word. So one word, okay, but it has multiple words within. See that? How do we start with the beginning with a small, every with small letter. Then the first letter of the next word we start with uppercase. So this is an example. I can type in more of camel case. So no matter how large my variable name is, should not give very large, but it is readable. This is called camel case. We should follow a convention. In some industries or some people, they use underscore, something like this. So you have to follow your team or your company tradition. Whatever your team or your manager or your programmers, your team uses, you have to follow this rule convention. Okay, and your function name, method name should be given a good name that is meaningful and understandable. Scope of variables. So the scope of variables means there are three scopes of a variable that we want to focus. This is a new thing. Three scope of variable. Okay, so this is called local variable, argument variable, and global variable. Let us give me an example of this. Okay, so what is okay for this method? Okay, so this sum method, for instance, sum method, it has variable named global. This variable is local variable. Okay, sorry. Okay, see, it has a global variable. This one at the top. This variable is defined for all class. This is global variable. For instance, this variable will be accessible from the main and from sum method. In main method and sum method. Okay, and here if I say int global, should not give same name. Okay, global equal to, for instance, 20. So although same name, but it is local to this method, and it is global, we should have different name actually. Say local. This local variable is value 20. This is only accessible within main method. I cannot print local within my sum method. For instance, if I want to say that, for instance, local equal to local, I cannot use this. When this is not showing an error instantly, but if I run this program, it will show me an error. This variable is not accessible here. Yeah. Okay, local variable is accessible within the method only, and the type variable, these are called argument variable or parameter variable, is something local variable, close to local variable. Okay, and global variable is accessible from everywhere. Okay, in programming concept, in object-oriented programming concept, in C++, C#, and Java, we use public keyword to make a variable global, and we use private keyword to make a variable local. And this argument variable are in between local and global. These variables are used to pass message from one method to another method. Variables are used to pass messages from one method to another method. Okay. These are the scope that, for instance, you here this is local variable. This is called local variable, and this is called argument variable. So here this will be local variable. If it is defined within a method, then it will be local argument variable. Other word, arguments are called parameter. Formal parameter or an actual parameters. These parameters or argument are located within the parenthesis of the method. The purpose of using parameters or argument is mainly to pass some values or messages from one method to another method. For instance, while we used these parameters, by using this parameter, what we are doing within main method, we are providing values. Staying within main method, we are providing values to get some method. So we are passing from one method to another method, and vice versa. When we give these values to the get some method, it will return value to the main method. It will help us to pass messages, data from one method to another method. Okay. So there are parameters are called sometimes actual parameters and formal parameters. These are called formal parameters. And when we declare a method with parameters in the signature line, these are called formal parameters. And when we call this method by giving actual values, these are called actual parameters. Sometimes its other name is called argument. Okay, in there, okay, pass by value and pass by reference. Maybe this is not a good time for you to understand this unless you understand object-oriented programming concept or more in-depth programming. Java uses only pass by value, and C# uses both pass by value and pass by reference. So we are familiar with this, right? Do something, this method is take an integer type argument and it returns void, returns nothing. Okay, and this average method takes two integer type values and it returns a. Okay, so what value it will return, it depends on you. How do you develop, write your method? By looking the signature, we are able to understand what is the method, what this method will, what kind of value it will return, okay, and what kind of value it will take. Okay, we are on almost on the halfway, but maybe we discussed this like a program. Okay, we went through this with the live program. I think at this point you should understand this, that I provide whatever value we call. When you call 5, give the first value, it will go for x, the second value will go. In our live program, we just discussed this. If we go to the slides quickly, I think you should be able to understand this. Yeah, and I think most of almost all of our slides, the remaining slides are that this way. Okay, there is a problem. You should practice this on to be prepared for your test. Okay, give me 2 extra minutes please today. You find the sum of integer from 1 to 10 or from 2 to 30 or 3 like this respectively. Try this one. In our next lecture we will discuss this. Okay, try this problem at home if you can. Okay, although the code is given already, pseudocode is given. Let me see, pseudocode is given, and then almost Java code is given. Okay, C++. Okay, then there is the next problem. Give me an extra minute, please. This problem, write a method that accepts two integers via parameters. Okay, determine the largest number and returns that. Write a program take two numbers, like for instance this integer x and integer y, and instead of returning result, it will return the largest value. You will use to if x greater than y, then return x, else return y. Very simple. Try it at home, please. Maybe one line of this is 2 lines of code. Okay, maybe this is here. You can practice. And this is sometimes Stack Overflow. We will discuss this in the last 3 slides. We will discuss in our next lecture. In addition to discussing this in our next lecture, what we want to do, I like to be prepared for the test and bring whatever questions you have in your mind. You like me to discuss, we will discuss. And I will, after this lecture, today I will pass a study guide. Okay, on D2L. As an announcement, please follow the study guide and bring any question you have in your next lecture. But please be prepared for the test and do some practice. Whatever I discuss this in my lecture is good enough for you to start with. At this point, you should be good enough to start with, and we have almost covered this function. Anyone has any questions so far? Everybody is happy? Thank you. Happy Friday.